Leo hadn't felt this... No, that can't be right.
Yeah, that's right.
Leo hadn't felt this humane?
Oh, Leo hadn't felt this jumpy.
Okay, yeah, that's just autocorrect. All right. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 32-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I read them as an adult because I was determining if it was a book series that society had been sleeping on. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has also been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series, and I am here with a very special guest, a new layout that we've never done before on the podcast, but it's a familiar voice that you've heard, and I've definitely heard because we spend lots of time together, and I appreciate that, and I like that. Please give a warm welcome to one of the fan favorite guests and one of my personal favorite people, if not my number one favorite person. Yeah, my number one favorite person. It's Kelly Schubert. Kelly, how's it going?
Quite the intro.
We are in an interesting situation. I'm in the Shubia, which is a walk-in closet.
Yes.
And the door is open and you are in the rest of the office.
Yes.
So I'm kind of turned to the side looking at you. The Shubio is in mostly full effect except the door is open. So it's not like at peak soundproofing.
Yeah. Hold on. Did you want to close the door and be in there and then put on the video and talk to each other on the...
No, I want you to be able to see me. It's just easier.
Cool. I got a nice view.
Of me?
Yeah, of you.
But normally when we do our recordings together, we both fit into our bedroom closet, which is
a larger walk-in closet.
Unfortunately, that is where our daughter sleeps.
Yep.
Not in the closet, in the room.
In the closet. In the room. She has claimed the room.
Yes.
And it's too dangerous to talk in the closet right next to her head.
Yes.
So we will be in here instead. We've been displaced.
Mm-hmm. And you are recording with baby monitor right under the microphone.
Yep.
Monitoring the baby. But
she's asleep.
Nice, good.
For now. Let's go.
And please for the whole time. Yes. So we're going to be covering the final 4 chapters of The Lost Hero because they are shorter. So we're going to be able to get through all of them. Now, we do have a new question for guests that was kind of organically created by someone submitting it and then Michael Hollis misunderstanding it, but me liking it better. So the new question is, if you had a riptide, so like an inanimate object that turned into something else, what would it be?
Oh, I thought this was going to be different. Yeah, okay.
But instead of it turning into a weapon, it just turns into a different inanimate object because that's probably more likely to be something you would use in your daily life. So you have a small inanimate object that then turns into a bigger one. What would you have? Me, for example, I said I would have like a friendship bracelet that turned into my laptop so that I wouldn't have to carry it around all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. Or I believe Michael said like a pen that would turn into his water bottle or something like that.
I'll pick the small item first as my wedding ring.
Nice.
Because that's on me all the time. But what do I want to be with me all the time also?
Oh, I know your answer.
What?
Your rollerblades.
My rollerblades?
Yeah, because you always complain about how they're so clunky when you would go out blading and stuff. If they were small, you would do it more often, I think.
But I would need the rollerblades, the helmets, and the pads.
Yeah, your full rollerblading kit.
My full kit. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest obstacles to blading is carrying all the stuff, especially when we would go on trips and stuff like that. I was thinking more things, something I would use day to day or multiple times a day, and what would I want it to be?
I mean, you could blade from subway station to wherever you're going.
Sure.
Or you could blade to the ferry.
Sure.
Come on.
No, that's a good one. Yeah, I guess I was trying to think of what I have on me all the time, which is my phone. But my phone is also small.
Right.
So I don't necessarily need it to be smaller. The baby monitor. Still asleep.
You could. I mean, we could do something like the stroller because then...
Ooh, that would be pretty great. I would say, well, okay, so my wedding ring has 2 parts.
Right, because you've got the engagement ring and the actual wedding band.
Exactly. So one part can be the stroller, and the other part can be my rollerblading kit.
Nice.
Excellent. Practical, fun. Excellent.
That's how I would describe Kelly. So let's get into these chapters. Now, this first chapter is chapter 53. It's called Leo. Obviously, we will retitle it by the time we get to the end of the chapter in a fun, quirky Percy Jackson way. Where we last left our heroes, we had Piper and Jason being all cute and stuff, and then them leaving to go to the forest because Leo had something prepared for them. We don't know what it is, but we will soon learn. This chapter begins with, quote, Leo hadn't felt this jumpy since he offered tofu burgers to the werewolves. Now, I had been guessing that this was going to be some sort of romantic surprise. Maybe Leo had set something up for Jason and Piper. I didn't realize what it was going to be because, honestly, forgot that Bunker 9 existed. There's so much that's been going on that I forgot stuff existed. I forgot Keone was an option for bad guy, and now I just completely forgot about Bunker 9.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on to talk about this. The last time I was on was chapter 4. So it's been quite a while. I had to remind myself, tofu burgers, werewolves, because I reread it when we last recorded.
Yeah.
And that was like a year ago.
It wasn't a year ago.
No,
it was early in the summer.
It was 6 months ago.
I think it was less than that.
It was like 10 years ago.
Time does fly when you have a baby. But it was whenever I did the Walker interview, which I think was March?
Yeah, it was after the premiere.
Yeah.
So it was sometime in the spring.
But pre us having a human.
Yes.
So yeah, it was, I think it was like middle of March. So it's been a bit. This is September 22nd. We're recording this.
Yes. I remember having trouble fitting, because when we record in the closet, it is very tight and you kind of have to shimmy in. You have to like really suck it in and then shimmy past the table to get in there. And I remember you had to build it around me because I was pregnant enough that I could not shimmy in. So I had to sit in first and then have you bring the table and the other stuff in, which is pretty funny.
Look, sometimes you just got to make things work when you're podcasting. And that is what we do here at the Newest Olympian. So Leo is feeling jumpy, and then the book made it pretty clear that he's going to be showing them the bunker. And then, Nissa's here. And then I wrote in my notes just in all caps, something to show us in the forest, the bunker. This was me in real time as I read this, remembering the bunker and all of the things and the bunker being in the forest and Leo, blah, 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 blah. Nissa is shocked that Leo is a fire user because he has to use his fire powers to open the entrance to the bunker. And Jake Mason, who's now fully out of his body cast, good for him, he is also floored. And when the stone door opens, everyone is absolutely gobsmacked, even Piper, who had seen some stuff the past week. So gotta be impressive there. The best, though, is that the narrator has a line to conclude this little segment that says, quote, only Chiron didn't look surprised. Of course he wasn't surprised. He knows everything. Now, instead, Chiron gives a look, quote, as if the group was about to walk through a minefield, and that makes Leo nervous. I was kind of confused about this in the moment.
Yeah.
It becomes clear later on, but I was initially confused of why this would be so daunting for Chiron. I thought this thing is cool. Why would Chiron be so sad or worried about it? And then later, by the end of this chapter or the next one, this Leo section, by the end of that, we understand why Chiron is so scared.
Right. He would either be surprised to see it or he would be apprehensive to show it to them. Because if he knew it was there and there was nothing wrong with showing them, he would have shown them, as he said, before the Battle of Manhattan.
Yeah, I guess in my brain, it was just when the right person comes along, they can activate the opening. Felt very Horizon Zero Dawn, where it's like, the main character, who I don't want to spoil things, but like the main character has the ability to open things that only the main character would be able to do. And now we know the time is right. The prophecy is here. I thought it was going to be a cool thing. Like, yes, of course, Chiron knew about it, but he was waiting. We need another fire user.
I see.
And now it's this cool thing. So when he was not excited but knew about it, I was very confused, which is fun. I mean, it's a great way for Rick to write it because objectively it should seem like it's awesome. What's the downside to this? Yeah. And then we learn. Now, Leo's instincts told him to share this place, at least with Cabin 9, Chiron, and his best friends. And of course, because the book said something about, an instinct or a gut feeling, I still have in the back of my mind a concern that every sort of gut feeling or conscience or voice in your head is the Ice Princess whispering to you, because that's what it was established in this book of, I had this thought and it was the Ice Princess planting seeds in people's brains. But I think this one is just a genuine gut instinct for Leo.
Yes.
Now, the group is silent as they tour Bunker 9. The only change in the bunker since Leo was last there is that Festus's head is now atop the table at the center, and Leo strokes it, apologizes, and promises to never forget him. Jason asks if Hephaestus put the head here, and Leo confirms. Jason guesses that Leo's not going to be able to repair him, and Leo says no, but he's going to repurpose the head. And this is something that I figured would happen based on the King Midas chapter, so I'm glad that it's going to be used. And I forgot initially what the most logical option was, and soon we'll see the most logical option is being chosen.
Yes.
Nyssa is flipping through a book of machine and weapon diagrams and is absolutely amazed. Jake Mason asks who built this bunker and why, and then we get a great line from the narrator, quote, "Chiron stayed silent." Of course, of course. Leo looks at the old map and sees that it has spots marked for trenches, ambush sites, traps, etc., so he guesses it was a wartime command center. He checks that the camp was attacked before. Piper asks if it was in the Titan War, and Nyssa says no, and also notes that the map says 1864 on it. The Titan War, that's what we're calling the war from Book 5, right?
Yes, the one that was like 2 months ago.
Right, so the whole thing is the Titan War, and then specifically it's the Battle of Manhattan for fighting Kronos. Yeah. Then we get another really fun line from the narrator, quote, "They all turned to Chiron." So good, it's so good.
Wait, I think we need to put these together. Only Chiron didn't look surprised. Chiron stayed silent. They all turned to Chiron.
It's just the classic 1, 2, 3 punch for Chiron. Chiron gets nervous and just says the Camp Half-Blood has been attacked many times, and he reveals that this map is from the last Civil War. The campers are confused. Piper asks if he means the American Civil War, and Chiron says, your favorite thing to say, yes and no. This is what I laughed out loud when I was reading, and you said, what are you laughing about? And I said, we'll get to it on the recording.
I do say that a lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, but that's because nothing's black and white.
Except for cookies.
Oh, we should go get some black and white cookies.
So good, so good. Chiron explains the two conflicts mirrored each other, quote, as they usually do in Western history. He says it was equally devastating when you look at the mortal version or the demigod version, and Chiron says that there were many losses on both sides. Leo asks if he means that the camp was divided, and Jason instinctively corrects him that there was another group, and Camp Half-Blood was one side of the battle, very clearly making it seem like the Romans were the other side of the battle. Leo hesitates but asks who the other side was, and Chiron says that the answer is dangerous, and he swore upon the river Styx to never speak of it. The gods were so appalled at the carnage that they swore to separate the groups. They did intense mist manipulation to ensure the two sides didn't remember their enemies, and they ensured they never were together on quests. And I do think that this is a great workaround from Uncle Rick. Of course, I understand what he's doing. He's doing well, I wrote these 5 books and they weren't really here, and then I thought of this new idea, so I got to put it in. But I think it does work as a workaround. Well. Yeah, I think it's good. I think that's, if you have a thing built into the stories that makes people forget stuff and obscures people's literal vision, and then I guess also your memory vision, then yeah, utilize that to kind of squash any sort of, wait, hold on, what's been going on concern that could be raised.
Right. I think it is very smart, and
you're raising your eyebrows, which is great for a podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember what you know and what you don't know.
Don't spoil me.
I know. I think this is great.
And your trapdoor, which we have installed, is still intact.
Into our neighbor's apartment below us. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It would drop you into there. So I talked with them about it. They're chill with it. Chiron says this map is from the dark days of 1864, the last time these two sides fought. He adds that there have been close calls since, such as the 1960s being particularly dicey. I don't love this. Because what he's basically saying is that whenever the mortals get a little bit racist, the demigods almost fight each other.
I thought he was referring to the Cold War. Am I wrong on my American history here?
I thought he was referring to Martin Luther King civil rights era.
Oh, I thought he was referring to...
When was the civil rights movement?
I mean, yeah.
1954 to 1968.
Yeah.
When was the Cold War? I thought that was later.
I thought it was the 60s.
It was earlier. 47?
Oh,
but then it lasted until 1991.
What? Okay,
when was the worst of the Cold War? I always thought it was the 80s because of Rocky IV.
I thought it was the 60s because...
It says, late 60s to early 70s, at least according to Raptor Galaxy on Reddit. 50s to early 60s, things were really bad for NATO. Soviet conventional superiority is near absolute, and early on, NATO is largely relying on warmed-over World War II equipment. Late 60s to early 70s, things are equaling out as NATO technology superiority starts. Late 70s to 80s, NATO is pulling away as NATO technological superiority and Soviet economic deficiencies result in NATO gaining conventional superiority and the Soviets struggling to keep up. Okay, so it could have been both of those. That makes me feel better about it. I just initially went to civil rights movement and was like, oh, cool. So the only time the fights happen is the Civil War and the civil rights movement. That's not great. But Cold War being a potential 1960s thing, especially with those two things happening at the same time, I get it. I guess he's just saying there was unrest in Western civilization. So then there would also be unrest with the demigods.
Right. The Bay of Pigs was 1961. And that was, in my mind, what the Cold War means. However, when I took world history, we spent so long in the pre-1900s.
Same.
That by the time we got to the 1900s, I remember the day before the AP test, I just remember being like, okay, Dad, talk to me for an hour about the last 100 years. Or I don't think the last 100 years. I think we got to World War II. And then I was like, all right, tell me about the last 50 years. And so I got my dad's perspective of world history, so I don't remember it super well.
I am intrigued to see whatever happens with our little one in history classes in the future, because now that I have lived through history,
interesting,
and we have lived through, I would say, a very tumultuous part of history.
Right.
I'm very intrigued to see what her history textbooks say about things.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it will be hard if she ever asks me for advice about things, because I'm just going to have to read her textbooks.
Right.
Because if she's like, well, Dad, what happened in 2020 with the George Floyd riots? Didn't people break into Target and wasn't that bad? And I'd be like, the numbers about theft from Target were overinflated. I'll just get way too passionate. She'll write this essay, this big leftist thing. And then her teacher will be like, aren't you in fourth grade?
I mean, when you think about it, my dad was born in the late 50s. So he would have been...
He would have been quite young.
He would have been young, but we were young when 9/11 happened.
Yes.
And that's a part of history that we remember pretty clearly.
I'm not really talking about that. I want to see what they're right for the Trump chapters.
No, okay, no, I agree with you on that. I meant that... Sorry, I think my dad was an authority on speaking of the, 1950s to the 2000s because he was alive for most of it. Mm-hmm. In the same way that we might be authorities in speaking about the early 2000s. What the textbooks say about Trump will be based off of what happens in November. I know.
Gosh.
And that terrifies me, right?
Yeah.
That terrifies me a lot. I think that depending on what happens, I'm terrified. Okay, look, I'm really afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look.
And I'm afraid to say that I think that the history books within the US could reflect based off of what happens soon.
Yeah.
Maybe we buy a Australian history book or something. And
that would be very
here's
interesting.
An objective source
that
talking
would be
about.
Very interesting. What's fun is this episode is going to drop on November 4th. Everyone go vote. Everyone go vote.
Oh my gosh, go vote.
Don't vote for Donald Trump. If you are going to vote for Donald Trump and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so mad that Mike is saying this, don't listen to my podcast. I don't care. If you're going to vote for Trump, don't listen. Get off. Think about your life choices and reconsider them severely. And I've seen the comments from right-wing folks saying, I wish he'd keep the politics out of the conversation so I can enjoy this Percy Jackson podcast in peace. But you're probably saying this because you are voting for the evil guy. And maybe deep down, you know he's evil, but you want to vote for him without repercussions. Well, I want you to have repercussions. I want this podcast to be hard for you to listen to, knowing that if we ever spoke and I learned that you voted for Donald Trump in 2024, I would be very disappointed in you. Everyone go vote for not Donald Trump.
Look, we don't think you're a bad person if that's what you're considering.
You're just making a bad decision.
But you're making a bad decision.
You have a really bad decision that you're going to regret later in life, I would hope.
And we know people who voted for Trump that regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid. Go vote. Please vote. Please vote. And please vote correctly.
Yes.
But also, please go vote.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Everybody should vote. Our country has one of the lowest rates of people voting.
And you want to know why? Because Australia gives you sausages when you vote, and we give you stickers.
So I was wondering, Ben and Jerry's has a new pint called Churn Out the Vote.
Okay, are they going to give it to you for free?
But they don't give it to you for free.
Then get off your high horse, Ben and Jerry.
I don't think that they're giving out for free. I just saw it in an ad today.
You should get a discount. If you show up with your I voted sticker, you should be able to get $1 off.
Right. I think that if Ben and Jerry's was like free pint of ice cream or half off a pint of ice cream if you show up with your I voted sticker, although you can take like 10 of those when you leave. So
look, whatever. It'll at least increase people voting.
I mean, we got free Krispy Kreme donuts when we got vaccinated.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And some people got vaccinated for the free Krispy Kreme donuts.
I got multiple free Krispy Kreme donuts. It was great. I remember we got Krispy Kreme donuts on the last day because it was like for a year. And Barb and Joel were in town and we went to the Fulton Center and they have a Krispy Kreme in there and it was like going to expire tomorrow. And I was like, Dad, we can get free Krispy Kremes if we show our vaccination cards. And we got free Krispy Kreme.
This is so silly that we need to America needs to bribe its citizens with food. But come on, Ben and Jerry.
Look,
Ben and Jerry are actually pretty great.
Yes, I know they do good things.
They do pretty cool things.
Yes, they've done cool things. They divested.
They've like shown up to like women's rights rallies and things like that. They're very cool for old white men. They're pretty cool.
Anyway, we should get sausages for voting. And shout out to everyone. When we did the live show in, was it Sydney or Melbourne? One of the two. It was like the day before election day. And I asked people, what food should we eat? People are like, oh, you should get freedom sausage or whatever they call it. And I was
I think it was in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think it was Melbourne too. And they're like, oh, you should get one of these sausages. I was like, I can't. I literally can't.
We can't do it.
Unless I like went to the polls with someone and I was like, can I have your sausage? I'm American, but I've heard they're tasty.
I did look into, you were there. But I looked into how to become a citizen of Australia.
Yeah, if it wasn't so far away, we would have moved.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, Percy Jackson, as we've definitely been talking about the whole time. So, Chiron notes that Leo was correct. This was a command center for the Hephaestus cabin. It's opened up a few times since then, most often as a hiding spot during times of unrest. And Chiron explains that the reason coming here is dangerous is that it can resurface old memories and spark up the disputes from the past. Quote, even when the Titans threatened last year, I did not think it worth the risk to use this place. And this seems like a big workaround because this place would have been very useful, but shout out to Uncle Rick for writing off every, why didn't they just question imaginable? Like he clearly thought, what are all the things people might well actually me for? And let me make sure I get them in. And I respect the game.
This is how I feel about Avengers Endgame. When Strange says there's only 1 in 14 million possibilities.
Yeah.
That for me quiets all the, but what if? What if Spider-Man had gotten the glove off?
Wouldn't have worked.
What if Thor had gone for the head?
Wouldn't have worked.
What if Vision had gotten the Mind Stone out of his head in time?
What if Jeremy Renner's haircut wasn't so bad? It needed to be that bad. It was probably distracting. Thanos was like, what the heck is Hawkeye doing? It was necessary. All necessary.
I've been rewatching some of the Marvel things now. And I need them to do a what if series about all those things I just said. What if Spider-Man had gotten the glove off? What would have happened? How would they have failed? I want to see
you just want to see every failure.
I want to see, I want to see the failures to make me feel better about the fact that Vision had to die.
Okay.
Yeah, really, it's Vision that I'm hurting about still. I mean, yeah, Black Widow and all that. Spoiler, sorry, anybody who hasn't seen Endgame, like 5, 6, 10 years later.
So, anyway, I bet that there are some of these why didn't they just sort of threads for Percy Jackson. I personally haven't seen any because I can't go around the Percy Jackson subreddit and stuff like that because of potential spoilers. So I'm sure that those exist, but I don't know. I feel like they have done a good job here kind of squashing a lot of those questions. The only one that I can think of is why didn't the demigods ever take the subway in book 5? Like they were walking everywhere.
Technology.
Hephaestus cabin was there.
Ooh,
Leo can fly a helicopter by touching it. You're telling me cabin 9 can't run the subway system?
Oh no, I meant like technology.
It's a
beacon for demigods.
But they're trains. They're not technology.
I'm just trying to retroactively help Rick out here.
Trying to Hades advocate me. So Leo immediately feels self-conscious about this. So he pleads to everyone to know that the place revealed itself to him. He didn't go out searching for this place, so it's not his fault. And if the place did reveal itself to him, it must be a good thing. It must have been meant to happen. And Chiron says that he hopes Leo is right. That's not great. When Chiron says he hopes.
Hope you're right.
I hope you're right. Like, no, you're supposed to know everything. Leo says that he is right, and he takes out his crayon drawing as proof. So finally, the crayon drawing coming into play. Leo tells the crowd that Aeolus returned his drawing that he made at age 5 back to him, proving that it is his destiny. Nyssa dismisses it as a silly crayon drawing of a boat, but then Leo points to the blueprint of a Greek trireme. And we all know what a trireme is, but just in case you don't, like if you had to Google trireme before recording your podcast, it's that classic Greek boat.
Is that how you say it?
Oh, I don't know. It's spelled Trireme. How would you say it?
Trireme. That's trireme.
Let's see what Google says.
Trireme. I would say trireme.
That can't be right. Trireme. There's only one R in it. Oh wait.
There's two R's.
Oh, I typed it into my notes app incorrectly. That'll do it. And okay, that makes sense. It had the little red squiggle underline for being spelled wrong, and I was like, it's a Greek word. They're confused. No, it is. Okay. They say trireme, which is probably what I would have guessed. Trireme.
Yeah, that's what I said,
trireme.
Right?
No,
Don't
you said
back.
Trevor.
No.
You said trireme.
I said
That's
trireme.
Super wrong.
What was it?
Trireme.
It's trireme.
No, it's not. It's trireme.
This word reminds me of in Twilight when Bella names her kid Renesme.
Oh no, that's worse. That's so much worse.
Trireme. It sounds like somebody's mom's name was Trisha and Renee. Trireme.
Why didn't we name our daughter Renesme?
Renesme. I think I suggested that.
Yeah, thinking I wouldn't know what it is. I haven't read Twilight, but I know enough Twilight to get by.
I think I suggested that just as a joke to see if you knew.
Renesme. What do you call her for short? Nezzy?
Yeah, they call so Jacob.
Okay, no,
calls her,
no. Okay, no. I don't need a real answer. So the two drawings are incredibly similar. Nyssa can't believe it since they were made over a century apart. Jake Mason is able to make out the words written on the schematic, prophecy, unclear, flight. He can tell that it's a drawing for a flying ship and an offensive one because it is stocked with weapons. And this is what I'm now realizing. Oh, this can be how they avoid the ground in future books. It's a flying ship. They'll be able to stay in the air. Cool. Jake Mason asks if it's ever been made. Leo says, not yet, which is the coolest response possible for that. Narrator Leo says, the front of the blueprint calls for the head of a dragon, and it's 1,000% Festus. I had some sort of misconception that it was more than just the head of Festus. I was envisioning the whole kind of top of it looking like Festus. I guess because I knew it was supposed to fly, that I was imagining it was kind of like Festus would be on top and then a boat would be underneath. I wasn't expecting Festus to die. I was expecting Festus to be a piece in the puzzle.
Yes.
He would be the way it flew.
Well,
alas.
We'll get into that later.
Oh, will we? Piper recognizes it and says Festus aloud, causing everyone to turn and look at the head. Leo says he is meant to be the masthead, the good luck charm, the eyes in the sky. Leo says he's going to name it the Argo 2, and he wants everyone's help. Piper lets the reader know that was Jason's ship, the OG Jason, in case you didn't know that. Jason, our current Jason, is nervous, but he says the ship is exactly what they need for their journey. And both me and Nyssa ask, what journey? And Piper says they need to confront Porphyrion. And I wrote, Greece, because that was pretty clear from their fight before that is where they needed to go.
I'm not even going to go into how I thought that word was pronounced.
How do you think Porphyrion was pronounced?
Piperion.
Okay, that you're not even trying.
No, I'm not even trying.
Not even
That's
trying.
just how I said it in my head.
I mean, I do kind of do that when I would read more ridiculous words, like when I tried to read Game of Thrones before doing any podcast stuff, and I couldn't, and there were just all the names. I was like, all right, this is the guy with these kind of letters, L's and Y's, great.
Well, that's how I read Lord of the Rings when I read it the first time, but now I'm reading it out loud, and I have to actually try and come up with some semblance of what the name sounds like.
Glorfindel?
Hey, Glorfindel. Is that Glorfindel over there?
This is me and Kelly doing our inside joke of how I said that people talk about Glorfindel. Is it
I don't even know if I'm saying Glorfindel right.
Oh, if we're saying it wrong, direct your emails to Kelly's Twitter. Don't. I
haven't checked
I hate when people email me about things my guest got wrong. I don't care. If my guest got it wrong, talk to them. I couldn't care less. Chiron thinks it's a good plan, stating that there are many parts of Rachel Elizabeth Dare's great prophecy that are unclear to him, but he knows for sure that Jason, Leo, and Piper are 3 of a group of 7 that must take on the quest and defeat the giants in their homeland before they can wake Gaia and destroy Olympus.
Gosh, I did that one wrong too.
What? Oh, no, it's Gaia.
Oh.
It's definitely Gaia.
Okay.
Haven't I explained to you that
You have, but I also thought it was Gaia.
Oh, no. So it's Gaia, but people have told me the Gia is an accepted one because of like Pangea and geography.
Oh, interesting.
But I am imagining it GIA like an Italian girl.
Okay, quick. Who are the other four?
Oh, I've said it, but I don't think I'm going to be right now.
okay.
Based on the ending of this book, I think it's going to be different.
Okay,
At the time of reading this chapter, I thought it was going to be Nico, Annabeth, Percy, Jason, Piper, Leo, and then either someone new or someone that wasn't important before but is now important, like Jake Mason or Will Solace or someone.
Okay.
I've got
at the end of the book,
thoughts.
you can say it again.
Yeah, we'll do it again at the end of the book. Anyway, Nissa, who has become the poster child for no stupid questions, goes, you don't mean Manhattan, do you? And Leo says, no, the original Mount Olympus. We have to sail to Greece. And that is the end of chapter 53, which I have retitled, It's All Greek to Nissa. I feel bad for Nissa because she's really the stand-in for just kind of
reader.
Clarifying, not even the reader, but just she's the stand-in for the reader who really hasn't put it together, which is fair. It's a book for kids. They might not get it. I've put a lot of these pieces together before they're explicit, but Nissa is kind of like the failsafe of, if you didn't understand what's going on before, Nissa's going to ask a very direct question because Nissa doesn't know what the hell's happening.
In Nissa's defense, they did just come back.
Correct.
And
Very
she
much correct.
didn't know any of this.
100%. A couple of things I felt maybe she could have pieced together, but yeah, you're right. Do you have a retitling of chapter 53?
I like that. It's all Greek to Nissa.
Great. Cool. Now let's get into chapter 54. It's
Or
very short. Yes.
Trireme Renesme.
Let's go into chapter 54, which is also called Leo. This one's super duper short. Quote, it took a few minutes for that to settle in, is the opening line, so we're kind of just moving right along. But all of the Hephaestus campers then start to ask questions at once, like, who are the other four? How long will it take to build the ship? And why can't we all go?
That's the same question I just asked you.
Yep. Chiron silences the crowd and says the details aren't set yet, but Leo is right that he needs to help build the Argo 2 electric boogaloo. He says that this task is the greatest Cabin 9 has ever taken upon themselves, even more so than the Bronze Dragon. And Nissa, continuing her trend, says this would take a year and asks if they have that much time. And I wrote on my notes, oh, Chiron, come on. Say that she has half that. Say that she has half that. Say that she has half that. Because it's my favorite action movie trope where it's like, I need 2 months. And they go, you got 1. Or it's like, I need 10 days. You got 5. I need an hour. You got 30 minutes. Like, it's always cutting it in half. So I was just praying that he would say, you have 6 months. And Chiron says, quote, you have 6 months at most. It makes me so happy. It's one of my favorite tropes. That and then someone entering a room at the same time as they have been addressed is just so good. Or I guess right after they've been addressed is so good. But it's not just Chiron being an action movie badass saying, that's not good enough. He actually has a reason. He's not just being a jerk. The reason is that they should leave by the summer solstice because that's when the gods are the strongest and when the wind gods are the weakest. And also in general, leaving later runs the risk of the giants waking Gia. He recommends that they only travel by air and by sea, making this ship perfect. I didn't even think about the fact that the ship could be just an actual ship. So that's really cool. And he says that it's fortunate that Jason is the son of the sky god before trailing off. And Leo knows that he was going to say Percy would also be an asset. And this is where I start to get into, I think I might understand what's happening in book 2. I wrote in my notes in all caps, please tell me book 2 starts with getting our sweet boy back. But that's not exactly what book 2 is going to be. And I realize what book 2 is going to be by the end. I thought what we were going to have is, I think I might even say this in a little bit later when it comes more clear. So I'll get to that later in this episode. But this was the first thing of me starting to think of, I might know what the Son of Neptune is about.
Where do you think Percy is?
We'll get there.
Okay.
They tell you by the end of the book.
Yeah, where do you think he was right now? Before you get to the end of the book.
I didn't have an answer. I didn't think he was where he is. I didn't realize it until it becomes
You think he was
very
maybe
clear.
just like stuck in the labyrinth or something?
I just lost. I for the longest time thought he was the lost hero.
I mean, yeah, me too. I thought that this book was about finding Percy when I first started reading it.
I just thought he was like part of the plot, but not exactly in the way that he is right now. And we'll get there. Jake Mason immediately motions for Leo to be head counselor now. And all of Cabin 9 agrees. And this makes me think, okay, Piper's now the head of the Aphrodite cabin. I guess Jason's the head of the Zeus/Jupiter cabin by default since no one else is there.
Yes.
You just become the head.
Same as Percy's the head cabin.
Yeah, I guess he could technically beat out Tyson, but Tyson's a Cyclops, so it's kind of different.
Tyson got there second.
That's true.
And Tyson doesn't spend his summers there anymore.
Nah. Narrator Leo says that all the kids smile at him like they can feel the curse breaking, and I wrote, oh, right, the curse. Quote, for once, Leo was speechless. And it's because he's been on the run since his mom died, and now he finally has a home and a family. And that's really sweet.
Aww.
I thought that was really nice. And even with the daunting task ahead of him, Leo has no desire to run away. Quote, well, if you guys elect me leader, you must be even crazier than I am. So let's build a spanking hot war machine. And I think everyone should have a recount and reconsider voting Leo for that, Gavin, because what a fart noise of a cool one-liner. I mean, but it's in line with Leo's character. He does something cool and then immediately says something just so whack right afterward.
Like any teenage boy, I assume.
Except for me, I always said cool stuff all the time.
And you did stupid things and then said cool stuff instead of doing cool stuff and saying stupid things.
That might be an accurate description of teenage Mike Schubert.
I think boys get to be one or the other. Say stupid stuff, but do cool things.
Inside you, there are two wolves. Yeah. So I have retitled chapter 54. I went sentimental. I called it I Stop Running. Just for Leo. What about you?
I'll call it Let's Build a Spanking Hot War Machine.
It's so bad. Okay, that is going to be where we take our break. The final Lost Euro. The final time we take this particular mid-roll break, unless I use that as a holdover name for the in-between this book and the next book episodes. But anyway, we're going to take our final of the Lost Euro where we talk about fun updates and stuff like that. And then we will get back into this episode of The New Olympian. Hello and welcome to the final Lost Euro Shubio edition. I've got a lot of updates. Let's get right into them. Scheduling wise, we have some interstitial episodes coming up in the next 2 weeks. So the next week's episode is actually going to be us covering the PJO Ultimate Guide, which is a very strange, interesting book that is this companion book to go with the first 5 books. And I covered this book with past guest of the show, Delia Gallegos, at our live show last year in Vienna, Virginia. Sherry was also there for the Q&A. So that's going to be the next episode, a super duper fun one. After that, it's going to be the Dr. Moya myth check for the Lost Hero myths. And then after that episode, we will begin our coverage of the Son of Neptune. Now, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I have to wait 3 weeks for the Son of Neptune first episodes, you actually don't have to, because if you go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon, you can get the stream replay of the stream that we did in New York City for the New York City live show where we covered the first 2 chapters with Johnny Frolickstein. Now, if you already watched the replay of it, you should get an email with access for you to be able to continue watching the replay. If you have not purchased it, you missed the replay window, whatever, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. There is a part called Shop. No matter if you are a patron or a non-patron, you can get access to this video. And if you are a patron, you get the same discount that you did before, so you get 20% off. And then if you're not a patron, you can still get it. You don't have to join the Patreon. You just pay full price. So same thing that we had when the normal stream was going on live and replay. You can get access to that now at thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. And you won't have to wait 3 weeks to hear my thoughts on the opening of The Son of Neptune. Now, speaking of live shows, we have 4 fantastic live shows to close out the year. We've got a show this week, if you're listening to this the day that it came out, this week, November 7th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That is going to be covering chapters 15, 16, and maybe 17, depending on how my notes and stuff go, of The Son of Neptune. Then on December 3rd, we've got that rescheduled show in Vienna, Virginia. December 15th, we have the rescheduled show in Dallas. And December 16th, we have the show in Austin. I'm very sorry to anyone who that Dallas rescheduling threw you for a loop. I wanted to make that move happen earlier. The venue had different plans and we had to make it a last minute thing against my choices there. So I'm so sorry. There were just like a lot of combining factors that made us push the show back, and hopefully you can now attend the show. And if you're unable to go to that new date, you should have gotten an email about refunds and all that kind of stuff. Just check that out. It might have been in your spam folder. Again, sorry if that threw a wrench into anyone's plans, and I appreciate everyone for understanding the situation. Now, I've mentioned the Patreon earlier. I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined our Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Angel, Naomi Riley, Trisha Williams, and Erica Lynn Baker. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Princess of the Underworld, When Will You Wear Wigs, Jillian Jane, Lucia, and Soul Clow. And I want to do corrections for 2 of our producer level patrons. One Damn Distraction coming up has changed their name to Grace. I'm not exactly sure when they made that change, but the credits will now reflect that. And I had been saying Kitka Crumbs for a very long time, and it's actually Kit Kat Crumbs, which makes way more sense. So I apologize that in the credits for a while, it has been saying the wrong producer level name. So my apologies there. But thank you all so much for your support. May Hades bless you that if you are taking the subway, you don't have any delays. I would imagine that since he's the Lord of the Underworld, he is also Lord of things that are underground. So hopefully you have no delays in your subterranean travel. Now, if you are all caught up on the New Olympian and you are looking for some new content to consume, I would recommend the TNO Patreon. Yeah, baby. There's a lot of content up there. Obviously, you can get access to some of the things I've talked about here, like that stream and all, but also we're posting some new bonus episodes. I'm going to do a bonus episode where I go through the Bug Juice website, just like screen share, screen recording, upload the full experience of the Bug Juice websites and just me poking around every single corner of it, because wow, what a fun tangent that was in the last episode. And I'm also going to do the classic bonus episode where I try to take that Sporkle quiz of all of the Percy Jackson mentions and see how I do with that. We've got a monthly Q&A that I'm supposed to be doing soon, and other directors' commentaries have been posted. There's so many fun things. And also, if you join the Patreon, you get access to all of the stuff I ever posted when Potterless was going on. So that's 5 years worth of content that you can consume as well. You get access to the Discord, which is really fun. Kelly has started a Trials of Apollo book club in there. Whenever she's reading the books, she'll post her thoughts there. So if you're on that series already, you can talk about it with Kelly. There's lots of fun stuff going on. And if you sign up for Patreon at a yearly payment structure instead of monthly, you get a 15% off discount. So lots of cool stuff, all available at thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You get physical items too, exclusive stickers, exclusive pins, so much fun stuff over on the TNO Patreon. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, another perk, you will now hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Greece, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Greek. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of the Newest Olympian. And we're back, and we're here to discuss chapter 55, which is called Jason. We're doing multiple narrators. So chapter 55 opens with, quote, Jason waited alone in cabin 1. And I said, nah, man, hippie Zeus is there. You're not alone. So Annabeth and Rachel Elizabeth are apparently on their way for a head counselor's meeting, and Jason wants time to think. And that made me realize, that's why we needed Leo and Piper to get promoted so soon. They have to be head counselors for the head counselors meeting, which is clearly going to be the conclusion of the book. Mm-hmm. Now, Jason's dreams last night were so bad that he doesn't even want to share them with Piper. Now I'm thinking, all right, what are these? You got to tell us. And he gives us clues as to what they were. It's all these little scenes, kind of his memories coming back to him. The night Lupa tested him at the Wolf House, and a long trip to the south to somewhere that he can't remember, the day that he got his tattoo, the day he was made a praetor, and then his friends' faces. Now, this is where I switched to, I got to reconsider who the 7 are. Dakota, Gwendolyn, Hazel, Bobby, period, and Raina. So that's different because Raina getting the and Raina, like she's an actress with high clout, but you weren't high enough clout to get top billing. You know, it's like, and Jeff Bridges at the end of a movie or whatever. So
with Martin Sheen.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm now thinking, okay, it's got to be at least 2 people from this, because this is now my thought. We've got 7, right? So we're going to have 3 Greek people. We're going to have 3 Roman people. And then we're going to have 1 person in the middle or something like that. Okay. So if I'm looking at the 7 now, unfortunately, you have Percy, Annabeth, Leo, Piper. I don't think any of those could get removed. That feels hard to do. I mean, we definitely know Piper and Leo are in there. And to separate Percy and Annabeth would be weird. So then if we're going for the Roman side of it, then you got to have Jason and then 2 of these people. I feel like...
Pick 2.
Not Gwendolyn. You're not making the cut. Bobby? No, I don't think Bobby. We also have enough boys. So Dakota, Hazel, Raina. Raina has clearly been set up to be like Jason's potential girlfriend from the past. I don't think Raina's going to be on the quest. I think she will just be this hurdle of, I had some sort of thing with Raina, not like Raina's one of the 7. So I guess Dakota and Hazel. So then we would have, but then where's Nico? I want to get Nico in there. Otherwise, we've got Piper, Leo, Annabeth, Percy, Jason, Hazel, Dakota. But then Nico. It would be weird if there's such an imbalance of Greek and Romans, though, if we only have 2. Because Nico would be Greek, if anything, if it were just like neutral. But he's at Camp Halfway now. They made the Hades cabin. Is Nico... Nico didn't show up in this book at all, so he could be separate. And they are talking about the whole Greek and Roman side of it. So maybe Nico is just like the White Ranger, where like he's there, but he doesn't really count. He's special. I'll guess Hazel and Dakota. That'll be my guess. Gwendolyn? Nah. Bobby? My apologies to Bobby Wagner and every Bobby listening. I will guess.
And the Gwendolyn's listening.
Gwendolyn? I don't know. It's too old school of a name, I think, to be something Rick would pick. Like, Rick is going to try to pick some names that sound cool. Like Piper, Leo. Like, we've got like cooler sounding names. And in this group, the like 2010s cool name is Dakota, Hazel, and Raina. And I think Raina could be this red herring of not actually one. So I'll guess that the 7, against my better judgment, because I want Nico to be in there, would be Dakota, Hazel, Jason, and then Annabeth, Percy, Piper, Leo. Nods in approval, and Trapdoor stays intact. So Jason is conflicted about the Raina situation because he's unsure what their status was, but the memory of her is making him worry about how he feels towards Piper and if he's in the wrong, which would suck because he really likes Piper. Ugh, tricky situation. Jason moves all of his stuff to Thalia's old setup in cabin 1, and he puts her picture up so he doesn't feel so lonely. I think this is cute. Hippie Zeus now just makes him feel sad, not angry. Jason talks to the statue and tells him that he knows that Zeus can hear him and that he wishes that they could talk, but he understands that the Roman gods don't talk to their kids as often, and as king, he has to set an example. This is perfectly convenient, but it also does make sense. He says that he remembers that being a son of Jupiter is hard because everyone looks to him to be a leader. He says he bets his dad feels the same way. He says he knows that Zeus has to keep his distance so it doesn't look like he's playing favorites, but Jason would really appreciate some guidance. Quote, help me so I can help my friends. He says he fears getting them all killed because he's unsure of how to protect them, and then he gets the feeling that someone is behind him and he turns and sees Hera, or Juno. She's in more of her Juno garb. They're kind of the same, whatever. But I did write in my notes, isn't she Juno? And then the next line is, quote, to you, I have always been Juno, because Jason turns and goes, Hera? She then says that Zeus has already given Jason guidance. Piper and Leo, quote, they're not just your responsibility. They are your friends. Listen to them and you will do well, which I think is sweet, especially coming from Juno, who clearly doesn't like Leo and I guess doesn't like Piper either. She's really anti-Thalia, but, you know, she's kind of a grump all around.
She doesn't really like anybody.
Nah. Jason asks Hera if Jupiter sent her here to tell him that, and she says no one sends her anywhere, for she is not a messenger. And that's unnecessary shade to throw at Hermes.
That's exactly what I thought.
It's got a perfectly fine job. What's wrong with being a messenger?
I was like, hey, Lin-Manuel Miranda's doing so, and Nathan Fillion are, you know, they're doing their best.
They're doing their best.
Doing the most.
Jason asks why she sent him here. She said an exchange of leaders was the only way to bridge the gap. And then here I wrote in my notes in all caps, oh my God, Percy Jackson is at Camp Jupiter, and that is book 2. Oh my God, that's why it's called The Son of Neptune. Oh my God, yes. Oh, please be a simultaneous thing. Oh, baby, wow, yes. So my guess now, because we've got the timeline here, is that The Son of Neptune is what Percy has been up to. So basically, book 1 and book 2 happen simultaneously. And then I would think that book 3 is probably taking us from the end of book 1 and book 2 until they leave for the quest. So that's the 6 months while they're building to R2 go. And then book 4, they leave for Greece. And then book 5, they resolve Greece. Or maybe book 4 ends with them going to Greece. But my most immediate thought is that the Son of Neptune is just going to be, what has Percy been up to this whole time? Trapdoor stays intact. Juno says she is helping Jason fulfill his destiny. Jason feels like a walking Bless you. Is the baby awake?
No.
That's a lot. You sure?
Yeah. I was going to try to keep it in, but...
But then you did the loudest sneeze on earth?
I was going to tell you to stop talking, but I was like, maybe I can get it to go away.
No, Sherry's keeping this in too. We're not editing this out. Juno says she is helping Jason fulfill his destiny. Jason feels like a walking contradiction with his Greek shirt and his Roman tattoo. Jason says Juno isn't giving him his full memories, even though she promised to do so. And she says, quote, most will return in time. Most is not all, and in time is too vague. That means nothing. That's like when someone says, oh, I've done this a number of times. You know what's a number? 0. That means nothing. Absolutely nothing. She continues that he must find his way back. He needs the next few months with his new friends in his new home so that he may gain their trust. He will be the leader by the time they venture out for their new quest, and he will broker peace between the two sides. Jason asks who is to say that this isn't all a ruse to start another civil war. And Juno gives an expression that Jason can't really decipher. She says that she is the goddess of family, and her family has been divided for too long. Jason says the division is to prevent them from killing each other, which seems like a good reason. Juno says the prophecy demands that they change. The giants will rise and can only be killed by God and demigod working together. The roster of the seven is split amongst the two sides, so those sides must come together. So this further gave me thinking that we got to have a more even distribution between Rome and Greece.
So then, of the people you've put in your seven of your roster that we don't know the godly parent of, who would you pick the godly parent of the ones you don't know?
I would want to think it would be people that we haven't seen, but let me just pull up a list. Olympic. This is why I want to have Nico in there. Man, God, I want him in there. Okay, so Zeus, check. Poseidon, check. Hera is basically Jason. And also can't have demigod kids because she won't break the marriage vow. Demeter? Ooh, okay, one of them's Demeter, for sure. Aphrodite, got it. Athena, Annabeth. Artemis, can't. Apollo, can Apollo have? Apollo can have kids. Ares, no, we had enough Clarice in there. Hephaestus, we got Leo. Hermes, we've had enough of that with Luke and Chris Rodriguez. And then Hestia and Dionysus. But with Dionysus, unless Mr. D is wildly different when it comes to Rome, he seemed like he didn't have a lot of kids and it was just the twins. And then Hestia, I think Hestia is also a maiden. Like, I don't think Hestia has kids. So I would guess Dakota and Hazel, I would say, are going to be Apollo and Demeter. I don't know which is which. And then if I'm wrong about those two being it, I think the two people we get added, if they are new people, like if it's Reyna instead of Dakota, then I just think the new people are going to be...
The two godly parents that are being added to the...
Demeter and Apollo. Because we haven't really... I mean, I guess we kind of got some Apollo kids, but like, I don't know, Will Solace did like one thing in book 5.
Okay.
So that's all right. Those are the guesses.
Okie dokie.
Cool. Trapdoor intact. So going back to the story here, Hera says, quote, "You must unite the heroes of Olympus, TM, 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 and sail together to meet the giants on the ancient battlegrounds of Greece." Juno says the gods will join them once they venture to Greece due to the danger. Jason says his position is unfair because he could also ruin everything. Juno says that's possible, but gods need heroes and always have. Jason says he thought she hated heroes, and she says that's what people say about her, but the truth is that she is jealous of the gods with mortal children. She thinks demigods being able to span both worlds help the gods with demigod kids better understand the mortal world. So I thought this was an interesting take from Hera. She kind of says, you know, my whole thing is marriage, so I'm not going to be able to do it, but I do feel like people who have kids understand the mortal world a little bit better, and I wish I had that understanding.
Yeah.
She says that she has 2 godly children, Ares and Hephaestus, quote, "both of whom are disappointments." You didn't need to throw one of them off of a mountain. Maybe you were a factor. She says that the lack of mortal heroes to do her bidding makes her bitter towards demigods. That's a bad look. To say I want to have kids so that they can do my bidding, not necessarily a great reason to be a parent.
Hold on.
Sure.
Aphrodite is married to Hephaestus.
Correct.
But often cheats on him with Ares.
Correct.
His brother?
They're all brothers. That means nothing.
I don't know.
That means nothing. It means nothing at all.
That's pretty crappy. Poor Hephaestus.
She says that the doing bidding thing is why she favored original Jason. He was 100% mortal, so no godly parents were there to guide him. And this is why she's glad that Zeus gave this Jason, new Jason, to her. Jason will be her champion. He will unite the demigods and thus Olympus, making him the greatest of the heroes. This pressure weighs heavily on Jason. He is scared, but he no longer feels alone. He now has friends, a home, and a patron goddess, even if the patron goddess he has isn't a completely trustworthy one. He decides to accept this destiny because his friends are counting on him. He asks Juno what happens if he fails, and she says bloodshed like no one has ever seen. So that's not what you want to hear. And if bloodshed, like the world has never seen, wasn't bad enough, Hera continues, demigods will destroy each other, the giants will overrun Olympus, Gaia will wake, and the earth will shake off everything we have built over 5 millennia. Fun that we get a confirmed date now, that it's been 5,000 years, so I guess they came around in 3000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, it will be the end of us all. So, fun. Jason, his version of me saying fun is great. Just great. Jason's good. People hating on Jason for being boring. I think he's a fun guy.
I like Jason.
I like Jason.
People hate on him?
I've just heard the general, and maybe it's not what people actually think. Maybe it's what people think as they are first reading the book, but then by the end they change their mind. I like Jason.
I like Jason too.
I'm a big fan. Someone then knocks on the door. Juno prepares to leave, but gives Jason a sheathed sword. The book calls it a gladius to try and trick us, but I took Latin in high school. So I know that gladium is the Latin word for sword.
So it's a Roman sword.
It's just a sword. But the reason I know this is because obviously when you have your Latin high school textbook, when you take Latin in high school, you go to the glossary section in the back and you look up the English words into Latin words section just to see if there's any fun things.
Mm-hmm.
And what did come up in my high school Latin book is that the Latin word for penis is also gladium.
Oh my gosh.
So sword and penis, same word. You want to know what the Latin word for sheath is?
Condomium.
Vagina, but it's spelled like you would think it is. They just pronounced V's like W's. So you can kind of piece it together.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Sword sheath.
Is this a PG show?
Look. The birds and the bees. They're all going to have to go to health class. But yeah, I knew that was the word for sword because you go to the back and it says penis and you're like, what? It also means sword. So yeah. And then you would, of course, say in Latin to people in school, penis jokes in Latin because that's what you do when you go to an all-boys high school and you learn Latin. It has to happen. It's the order. It's the circle of life.
It's so funny. In Gilmore Girls, when Rory goes to a new school,
mm-hmm.
the boy who's hitting on her and like aggressively so.
Does he hit on her in Latin?
He calls her Mary and she can't figure out why he keeps calling her Mary. She's like, my name is Rory. And she gets so pissed at him. My name is Rory. She can't figure out why he's calling her Mary. She goes home and tells her mom and she goes, I can't believe that they're doing this. Like the Virgin Mary, it means you're a goody two shoes. And it's like, wow. Even their insults are leveled up at a smart school like this. And so when you're like, we tell penis jokes in Latin, I'm like, what a bunch of nerds.
The trash talk game at my high school was pretty strong. Because we were a bunch of nerds, it was a very nerdy school. You got that angle of it. But then also all boys school, just like our love language to each other as friends was giving each other crap and trash talk.
Gosh.
So both like chiding your friends trash talk and then also like legitimately talking smack. And then it would also bleed over when we would play other schools in sports. Our trash talk was so good that our principal had to yell at us for being too mean to the other schools. There's some stuff we did that, like, I am not proud of. It was some stuff. A funny one that I am proud of is we would all get the school newspaper and bring it to the games in the bleachers. And then when the other team would come out and they would, be announcing their starting lineup and stuff, we would all pull out the newspapers like we were bored.
Oh my gosh.
That was a pretty good one.
That's funny. That's funny. I do remember some jokes that girls on my soccer team would make that I'm not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I'm proud of, I never opened my mouth on the soccer field. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell at the ref. I mean, yeah, I opened my mouth to like call for the ball and stuff.
Yeah.
But if I thought a call was unfair, if my teammates were making fun of somebody, I said nothing on the field. And I'm cool with that is my tactic.
This is why opposites attract, because I never closed my mouth on the field.
I think that I recognize this is a game. I don't need to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't need to be yelling at the ref.
Oh, see, for me,
I don't need to drag anything else into this. This is a game.
For me, I realized this is a game, so anything I say during the game doesn't matter.
Oh my
I get
gosh.
to be a bad person for 45 minutes. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. It's just a game.
Works.
I don't mean it. It's just a game.
That is not how it works.
That is how it works. Especially if you make someone mess up because they're angry at you. Oh, it's so good.
Our baby's going to be an
good.
interesting mix of human.
So anyway, Juno tells Jason after giving him this sword that he can use it to replace his lost weapon. And now I'm sad because I don't think Fliptide's coming back. And I liked Fliptide. I really like Fliptide. I want Fliptide back. Come on.
Remind me what happened to him?
He broke during one of the fights. He was fighting enchiladas and it broke.
I read this and I was like, oh man, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. It was in a fight.
Broke in a fight.
And then it like exploded and released a bunch of energy. I think it was the enchiladas fight.
Is it really enchiladas?
No, it's enchiladas.
Oh.
I think. But at least that's the more common thing. I got stuck between hard C and soft C and I just decided to say the food instead because I like that word. And I like that food. Now, anyway, Percy Jackson. So I don't think Fliptide's coming back. That makes me really sad. But Juno continues saying that they will speak again because, like it or not, she is his link to Olympus and they need each other. And I do think Hera being a major player in the series is fun. Even though we don't like her, having her around is just a fun, complex tie to Olympus that we will have throughout the books. And it's fun. Like, she's annoying, but that's kind of the point.
And we're not going to have her as a godly parent. So this is kind of the only way we get her.
Exactly. We didn't get a lot of her in the first 5 books, so let's get her in these 5. She then vanishes as Piper enters, and she says, quote, Annabeth and Rachel Elizabeth Dare are here. Chiron has summoned the council. So
she says, quote, Annabeth and Rachel are here.
Oh, sorry. Well, I will never not call her by her full legal name. So I've retitled chapter 55, I Am Given a Replacement, just to kind of be alluding at the sword. What about you?
Hera gives me a penis. We can cut that bit
out. No.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me think of a better one. R.I.P. Tide. Fliptide.
Man. Rest in peace. May you flip in the heavens, Fliptide. So let's get into chapter 56, the last chapter, which is also called Jason. And I did write my notes here at the very beginning. Wouldn't it be great if one of the chapters, just you turn it and instead of saying Leo, Piper, Jason, it just flips and then you see Coach Hedge. Like, can we get one Coach Hedge chapter? Just one in the middle of one of the books. You know, it's Leo, Jason, Piper, Annabeth, Percy, Coach Hedge.
That's the kind of thing that Marvel would put as an after credits scene.
It could be 2 pages and it can just be him talking about how good some grass tastes. Just one Coach Hedge chapter, please. Anyway, what this chapter actually starts with is, quote, the council was nothing like Jason imagined. And first I wrote, ooh, okay. And then I wrote, wait, don't we know exactly what the council is going to be like? And that's exactly what it is. Because we know that they have these council meetings in the rec room or around the ping pong table, and it's very silly and it doesn't seem as intense as you would think it is. And that's basically what Jason is thinking. I thought this was going to be way more formal. What's also fun is someone moved Seymour, the leopard head or whatever, into the meeting. I had forgotten about Seymour because that was not something that came around after his initial introduction in the first 10 chapters. The counselors then toss him Snausages every now and then.
What is a Snausage?
It's like pigs in a blanket, but they're dog food. It's like, you know, like bacon strips where it's like fake kind of like
so
meat.
It's dog food.
Oh, yeah, it's dog food.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a brand of dog food. So the fact that
blanket.
Snausages got the nod and not bacon strips, I bet the people reading this are like, it could have been us. But Uncle Rick went with Snausages.
You know, this won't be hard. But when we're home for the holidays, I should convince my family to make pigs in a blanket.
Okay, good. I'm so glad that that sentence did not end with, we should have some of Murphy the dog's Snausages.
No. Although, when we were little.
Did you eat dog food, Kelly?
No, I did not eat dog food.
Your brother?
No.
Aaron?
So, we had 3 pets when I was growing up, 2 dogs and a cat. And we each, and I am one of 3 siblings, so we each decided which one was our favorite. The cat was my favorite. One of the dogs was my sister's favorite, and the other dog was my brother's favorite. I formed the cat club, and my sister formed the dog club. And
was the cat club just you?
The cat club was just me. To be a part of the cat club, you had to eat a piece of cat food. And to be part of the dog club, you had to eat a piece of dog food.
Please tell me you refused to join the dog club.
Oh, I didn't join the dog club, but I joined the cat club.
Oh, you gave yourself your own initiation?
Yeah, you have to initiate yourself to be in the club.
Was it wet or dry?
It was dry.
Was it good or bad?
It was salty. It was salty and crunchy, and I probably spit it out. Now, here's the thing. I have to check in with my sister. I'm pretty sure she fake ate her piece.
Oh, please ask her before this episode comes out, and we can do a Kelly from the future.
I wonder if she even remembers, because this is such a formative memory for me, because I remember exactly how it tastes. She didn't actually eat it. I don't think she actually ate it.
She did a little sleight of hand.
I think she admitted to me at some point. I think she just told me she ate it, and I believed her.
Wow.
I think
you're so trusting.
I think that I said I want to be part of the dog club. Okay, this is. I'm pretty sure this is how it happened. I said I want to be part of the dog club too. She can't be part of the dog club. I said, why not? She said, to be part of the dog club, you have to eat a piece of dog food. And I said, I don't want to do that. Did you eat a piece of dog food? And she's like, yeah, I ate a piece of dog food. And I was like, fine, I'm going to make a cat club. To be part of the cat club, you have to eat a piece of cat food. And then I ate a piece of cat food.
Wow, she got you so good.
My sister was so good. She's so smart.
She's got a PhD.
She's so smart. We used to share a room, and to help each other fall asleep, she would give me a back massage, or I would give her a back massage. But to make it even, we had a little stopwatch. She would say, okay, I'll give you a 5-minute massage, and then you give me a 5-minute massage. I always went first, and she'd fall asleep while I was massaging her. And then she would say, just add it on for tomorrow. We'll just add it on for tomorrow. And I have like 1,000 hours of uncashed in massage credits.
You should cash in now. Now's the time.
She'd be like,
to
Aaron,
cash
I
in.
need my 100-hour massage now, please, to help me go to sleep. Better yet, I'm going to use that credit for my baby. You rock my baby to sleep.
Anyway, Percy Jackson.
She's so smart.
Jason
Or
tries.
I was just like really gullible.
I think probably a little bit of the two.
And rightfully so, just looked up to my sister like she was amazing, because she was.
I mean, she's pretty cool. She's a good one. Hey, this is Mike from the future here with the update that we promised. Kelly, you said Erin's very good and very smart, but maybe she's not as crafty as you thought she was, because Erin texted me the following when I asked her about this quote. She wanted to do a cat club and I wanted to do a dog club. We each had the quote, eat a piece of the food requirements, but mine was dog food and hers was cat food. In retrospect, weird of us to put restrictions on membership to a club that would only have one member, who was us. And then I said, okay, does that mean you actually ate it? And she said, quote, oh yeah, definitely. Still remember how it tasted too. Weird and salty. So what a wild situation that the Beckman sisters got themselves into back in the day. Anyway, here's the rest of the podcast. Anyway, Percy Jackson, Jason tries to recall everyone's name, but thankfully Leo and Piper are first timers, so there will be intros. And we didn't see Jason meet the head counselors before, right? Did that happen kind of off page? I guess he got a tour of stuff, and maybe that was going on while Annabeth and Piper were talking in her chapter. Now, here's something very surprising. I've been asking this question the whole book. Clarice is here. I've been wondering, where the heck is Clarice? Clarice is here. She's been doing nothing. She's here.
There she is.
Yeah, where have you been, Clarice?
She's in retirement.
I don't know, man. I'm so conflicted because I really didn't like how book 5 Clarice shook out. So I'm intrigued to see if she comes into play at all in these books. But in addition to Clarice, we have Clovis, who's asleep, Butch, Iris Cabin, who is putting pencils up Clovis's nose, Travis Stoll, who is trying to light a ping pong ball on fire, Will Solace, who is fiddling with an ace bandage. Just teens. Look at all these teens. And then Jason, as the narrator, continues, Llewellyn something or other, the head of the Hecate cabin, is playing Got Your Nose with Miranda Gardner from the Demeter cabin. And at first I remember it was, really? Miranda Gardner, Demeter cabin? But then I realized, okay, yeah, Stoll, Hermes cabin, Solace, the Apollo cabin, and Mason for the Hephaestus cabin. Like, there's a lot of nominative determinism here in the Percy Jackson books.
Yes.
And I guess that makes sense. Maybe when the gods choose what mortals they're going to hook up with, it's like, oh, well, I build things. I'm Hephaestus. I'm going to make love to this woman whose last name is Mason. Maybe it's the god's fault. But this game of Got Your Nose is next level because Llewellyn something or other is using actual magic to literally detach Miranda's nose from her face. Jason hopes that Thalia will show up. I don't think that's going to happen. Chiron told him not to worry about it. Rachel Elizabeth, who's still wearing her Clarion Ladies Academy uniform, is seated next to Chiron. Annabeth is on edge and looking at Jason like he should have some information for her. Chiron settles the kiddos, including telling Butch that 20 pencils is too many for one human nostril.
What the heck?
20?
What the heck?
I did the math here. So Ticonderoga pencils, the best pencils, Ticonderoga pencils are 0.25 inches in diameter, quarter inch. 20 of those would be 5 inches. That is the size of a navel orange in your nose, except that it isn't because navel oranges usually are not bigger than 4 inches in diameter.
More like nasal orange.
Nice. But can you imagine putting an orange up your nose? I guess yada yada Greek stuff, but what, 20 pencils?
Maybe Llewellyn's helping him out.
Maybe. Gosh, 20 pencils?
Maybe Chiron's exaggerating.
Yeah, Chiron just really can't count. 20 pencils is enough. There's 2 in there, sir. So Chiron tells everyone that clearly Jason, Piper, and Leo returned successfully, quote, more or less. Absolute burn from Chiron. Chiron then turns it over to them to share their story. Jason tells most of it, with Piper and Leo filling in
Here's
the details
where
as needed.
It says, see page 1, and then you start reading the book, and then you get here and it says, see page 1, and then you start reading the book. It's an endless story. It's a never-ending story.
Of course. Jason knows the story must be wild because a room full of folks with ADHD never broke concentration while they told it. Annabeth's main takeaway is that Hera was here, and she is delighted when Jason says that he doesn't fully trust her. He does vouch that there's another group of demigods, and it's where he is from. Clarice chimes in saying, Romans, you expect us to believe there's another camp with demigods, but they follow the Roman forms of the gods and we've never heard of them? Yes, Clarice, exactly that. That is literally what we are expecting you to believe. Piper and Chiron kind of catch Clarice up to speed as to why this is believable, and Chiron says that the rivalry goes back to the Trojan War. The Greeks invaded Troy and burned it to the ground. Aeneas escaped and made his way to Italy and founded the race that would become Rome. He explains that Romans worship the same gods but with different names and a more warlike and uptight personality, which yields a yuck from Travis Stoll. Annabeth says the Romans took revenge by conquering the Greek Isles and enveloping them into the Roman Empire. Jason says it was more jealousy and admiration than hatred. Greeks thought the Romans were barbaric but respected their military prowess, and this started the demigod divide, and it's been like that ever since. Annabeth asks where they were during the Titan War, and Chiron says while Percy and Annabeth saved Manhattan, the Romans conquered Mount Othryth in California.
Smart.
Yeah, super smart. And I think this was alluded to by someone at some point. I don't know if it was the Aeolus chapters or something, but there was some point in this book where there was some sort of clue of, oh yeah, this was going on. Mm-hmm. And I know this because I have something in my notes that I don't think I realized it when I was reading it, but it was when I was doing the production work for the episode a couple of weeks after the fact, because just in the top of my notes app notes is, oh wait, Jason was defeating Krios at the same time as Percy was defeating Kronos. Travis calls out Chiron for telling them that Mount Othryth crumbled when Kronos was bested. Jason chimes in to say that he remembers destroying the palace and defeating Krios himself. And that makes a lot of sense given that Krios was set up to be a big deal during the dream sequence where we were introduced to him in book 5, and then we didn't really see him at all, so it would make sense that he needed to be conquered. It makes me tempted to reread those chapters to kind of see if there is any sort of clue or inkling to what went on, but I have too much to do, so I probably won't be doing it.
I, after reading this series, reread the first series and the second series again. I didn't pick up on any clues if they were there.
Okay, good to know. Annabeth now realizes that being instructed to stay away from the Bay Area wasn't just to avoid Mount Othryth, but also the Roman demigods. And this makes the repeat location make more sense. At first, I kind of thought it was boring that we're going back to the Bay Area, but I think it makes sense. I think it's a cool workaround. And I've also been informed that Rick used to live in the Bay. I called him out for, I thought there was no way because he called the East Bay something weird. I think he said it was like east of San Francisco Bay. Like he called it some like weird clunky, like when he says that the streets in New York are East 101st Street or whatever. So
That just must be the technical way of saying things.
I mean, technical way for New York. I've never heard a soul, and I don't think it's correct either for the Bay Area, but apparently he lived there at some point and taught there, so I guess he's writing what he knows.
Yeah.
I wonder if Texas will ever come up since he lived in Texas. It would be cool.
Do you know where Leo's from?
Yeah, Leo's from Texas.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, but are they going to go to Texas? Are we going to? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure, I guess that's something, but like, I want a book where they're in Texas.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeehaw, baby. Annabeth asks Chiron where in the Bay the Roman camp is, and she's 100% certain that there is a Roman camp in the Bay Area. I'd like that she doesn't even check. She just immediately knows, okay, yeah, this has got to be it. Chiron says that he cannot say, but this time he cannot say because he has not been told this information. Even he was not trusted with it. He says Luba is not the sharing type, and Jason's memory of it has not returned. And I wrote, or has it? Because we have that thing where he was in the helicopter, where he stared at that tunnel, and that feels pretty ominous. Like that tunnel is the way in.
Maybe he had a feeling rather than a memory.
Sure. There's at least been a clue. Jason says it's veiled in magic and heavily guarded, so a search mission would be fruitless. Rachel Elizabeth, who's the only person in the room not looking nervous, asks if they will search for the Roman camp after making Argo 2 Judgment Day before going to Greece. Clarice thinks that's a bad idea, because if the Romans see a warship approaching, they will think it's war. And Jason thinks she's right, but also thinks that they must try. He explains that he was sent here to learn about Camp Half-Blood and prove that the two sides don't have to be enemies. There can be a peace offering. Rachel Elizabeth thinks that this is Hera's play for the great prophecy, and Annabeth recites the final line, quote, "And foes bear arms to the doors of death." Annabeth says Gia has opened those doors, and she bets the line means that the two sides will unite, find the doors, and close them. But then Clarice thinks it could mean that they would fight at the doors since it doesn't mention collaboration. And that is very interesting.
Could go either way.
So interesting that the next line from the narrator is, quote, "There was a silence as the campers let that happy thought sink in." Annabeth insists on going when the ship is ready. Jason is relieved that she offered because he feels like they need her and he was definitely going to ask her to join them anyway. Leo is back to being an insecure little baby because he goes, "Wait, I mean, that's cool with me and all, but why Annabeth of all people?" Because I think Jason explicitly said, "Oh, you of all people has to be there." So Leo thinks, "Why her of all people?" Annabeth and Jason lock eyes and realize that they both know what's going on. Jason explains the exchange, quote, "When I got here, my memory was wiped. I didn't know who I was or where I belonged." And then in Roman notes in all caps, "Wait, are they going to do this to Percy too? Is book 2 going to be The Lost Hero but with Percy instead?" Quote, "Fortunately, you guys took me in and I found a new home. I know you're not my enemy. The Roman camp, they're not so friendly. You prove your worth quickly or you don't survive. They may not be so nice to him, and if they learn where he comes from, he's going to be in serious trouble." And Leo then asks him, "Who are you talking about?" And then Annabeth jumps in to say, "My boyfriend." He disappeared around the same time Jason appeared. If Jason came to Camp Half-Blood, and then Jason jumps in, exactly. Percy is at the other camp, and he probably doesn't even remember who he is. And then I just wrote, "Oh no." I hadn't thought of the possibility, and of course it would make sense, but I hadn't thought of the possibility that Percy's memories would also get wiped.
Oh.
I think just in my brain, Jason's memories being wiped felt like such a Hera linked to him specific thing as opposed to Hera doing this move. But now when they said this, I realized, oh, every time a god like Hephaestus or someone else realized, I see what Hera's doing, it must be because they had the inkling. She's doing the swap and taking memories from both of them. So I hadn't really figured that this would happen to Percy because I thought the Hera Jason thing was just because of the Zeus connection and Jason being given to her as the champion and all kind of things like that. But it would make sense that Hera's just trying to facilitate this. So she's done the same thing to both of the boys. And I really didn't put that together until this last line where they basically tell you this is what's happening.
What do you think the point of taking away their memories is?
I think it's a way for them to build trust with everyone. Because if Jason knew more about his history when he's at Camp Half-Blood early on and he has these bad feelings, if he truly knew everything, he would know, because I don't know how much the Romans know. Clearly, the Greeks don't know anything because all these campers were confused. But I just feel like those feelings of, I shouldn't be here, this is bad, would be stronger. And then maybe he wouldn't go along with it. Hera, I think, intentionally is letting them not remember anything except for when it's super important for the quest. They do a quest, they make new friends. And now you have these kind of things even look at Piper where she was like, oh, I was tempted to save my dad, but I didn't know I was going to have to give over you two. I would never betray you. You two are my closest friends.
Right.
So I think Percy's probably in that same boat where Hera knows Percy's got to become really close with Dakota and Hazel. And then by the end, he's like, oh, I can't screw over Dakota and Hazel. They're my best buds.
Right.
So I feel like...
Take away their prejudices so that they can form true connections. And then...
Oh, what if there's a Percy and Hazel thing? Like there was a Jason and Piper thing. That would be so bad. That would be so bad. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Can we never just be secure in Percy and Annabeth? Can we never just be okay with Percabeth? Does there always have to be a threat? Oh my gosh, that's going to be wild. But yeah, I think the point is to build the trust. And I got to hand it to Hera. Clearly this plan worked. I wouldn't say flawlessly because a bunch of stuff went wrong. But, if we're doing it's not the journey, it's the destination. We got to where we need to be for half of it. So if things go right in the Son of Neptune, well played, Hera.
So lucky for you.
Yeah, the live show's tomorrow.
We can stop this recording and you can go and read about it.
Yeah, so here's what's going on. I mean, it is 9:53 p.m. on Sunday, September 22nd. So I will be finishing this recording and then finishing the episode that is meant to come out on Monday, September 23rd, then reading the 2 chapters of the book and then doing the live show. It's going to be a wild span of a few hours for me. It's going to be just a ridiculous 24 hours, basically, because, the live show will be done, in...
When are you going to sleep?
Tonight. I'll have time to read it. Okay. I will just...
You can read it tomorrow morning.
Right. I apologize in advance for not being able to be as attentive with the baby. I have a book to read. My apologies. I got to do my job. I got to read a book. Take notes about it. Get ready to talk about it with Johnny on stage. And by the time you're hearing this episode, you can buy the stream replay if you haven't already got access on the TNO Patreon. Then you don't have to wait a couple weeks for my thoughts on the next book. But anyway, that was the end of this. Oh, I didn't come up with a chapter title for this one.
Oh, right.
Do you have a chapter title? I was so excited by the end of it. I just slammed my e-reader and then did laps around the office last night at 2 a.m. when I finished reading this.
My boyfriend doesn't remember who he is. Oh, wait, no, but it's from Jason's perspective.
Yeah.
An exchange goes 2 ways.
I like that because that is a quote that he actually says, right? Yeah. So I have another lost hero is found.
Ooh. Or another lost hero to be found.
Sure.
Because we haven't found him yet.
Well, they found out where he is.
They think they know where he is.
They know where he is.
They know
where he is. That'd be wild, Son of Neptune. You open it, it's just like Tyson was having a great time with Poseidon. He's the son of Neptune.
True.
Anyway, that has been a very fun episode, a very fun conclusion to the Lost Hero discussions on the Newest Olympian. Kelly, thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you want to promote to the folks at home?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Get out and vote.
Yeah, do that.
Go vote.
Go vote.
It's November 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Go vote. Your employer is required to give you time off to vote, to stand in line to vote.
Also, this is to the Americans. We understand this is an international podcast. Oh. You can't vote.
Look.
Or
vote,
there's
vote
kids
in
that
your
are,
country. Everybody vote in your country
if
for your elections.
If you're of legal voting age, I understand there's people under 18.
Oh, yeah, that too.
So, if you can vote, vote.
If you can vote in any election in any country, do that.
And if you're voting in America, don't vote for Donald Trump. I will go on record. Don't do it. 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 But thank you so much for listening. If this is your last episode, sorry. But thank you for listening, Kelly. Thank you for joining. And until next time, when I figure out who the heck is Percy Jackson, until then, I'll pursue you later. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamontes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you love the podcast and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things you can do. First, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can join the Patreon, and you can get access to a whole bunch of fun bonus content. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There's also a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And there's also the TNO Discord, which you get access to by joining any TNO tier on the Patreon. You can learn all about the show at thenewestolympian.com, and you can get some sweet TNO merch at thenewestolympian.com/merch. I've mentioned the Patreon, so let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Sabrina Balsiger, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkoff, Rika, Ryla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Han, Haley Hingleheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Jessica Phillips, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, and Andrea, not Andrea. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just tell someone about the podcast. It really does help a lot, whether that is you reaching out to someone directly who you think might enjoy the podcast. Maybe they're a big Percy Jackson fan. Maybe they've been looking for an excuse to read the books. Or if you post about the show on social media, or you leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Truly, all of these things help. I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past, and I also appreciate anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we will be covering Percy Jackson, The Ultimate Guide with Delia Gallegos, featuring Sherry Guo, live in Vienna, Virginia. But until then, I'll pursue you later. everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mix. So recently I did a live show for TNO and Potterless in New Orleans, and there's a point where my family was getting beignets and I was holding down a spot in the park with the baby while they got the food, and there was a live band playing across the street, and it was very cool and very New Orleans-y, so that will be our ASMR Mix segment for this episode. Thank you so much for listening.